Thank you, whoever did that. I appreciate that. But before we get to an actual behavior in the teachings, it says that there is the craving mind, right? The wanting or not wanting mind. And that itself is an addiction. And so then we could say that the craving mind is the mind of self-making. The craving mind, the wanting, not wanting mind that leads to all addictive devices is the mind of self-making. So what do I mean by that? The addictive mind of self-making, self with a capital S. We could call it me mind, shrink-wrapped mind, all about me mind. Me is the star of my stories mind.
Me against you.
Me against you mind, because once there's a me, there's only then another, right? That's the paradigm, that's its nature. And so we've been looking at what are all the ways, and then what are the reasons besides that we go into this self-making. We call it self-clinging. We call it general tanha, would be a Pali word, tanha, which means a burning thirst, a hunger interior, can't get enoughness, you could say. And we talk in the Western psychologies then not about the can't get enough, because look at what we've got. Can't get enough, can't get enough. It doesn't matter what house you live in down here. You're going, I could be living in that other one.
Yeah.
Could have 3 bedrooms. Could have a second story. Could see the ocean. Wouldn't that be cool? We could only get up there, see the ocean. Wouldn't it be great if we could live on the roof? Wouldn't it be, right? Wanting, craving mind. And in the Buddhist tradition in particular, but I think all spiritual traditions, what it says is this is the path to certain suffering. Craving itself, wanting itself, needing to get to be okay. I've got to have, why? Because even when you get it, the perfect martini, the gorgeous house, the perfect yard, my 49 Willys Jeepster.
Yeah.
It is not the path to the end of suffering. You only have to watch a little guy or a little girl, 9-year-old, screaming for the phone. And now they're 2, aren't they? Yeah. Give me the device. Give me the thing. Gotta have it, because I can't stand simply being. I can't bear it. Because what? Then I come back to the reality of impermanence, the reality that this is not all about me, that I am not actually the center of the universe. And by the way, so say the teachings, an essential part. It is true. You are essential and you are not the only center, right? And so we suffer is what it says. And so I've been looking a lot at my own addictive devices. My number 1 favorite device is judging. I have an opinion about everything. I'm from Chicago. I can't help it. This is the way I've decided, right? The good news is, after a lot of practice, I recognize it. I know it is judging. I know it actually as an essential insecurity and fear. I'm not confused. This isn't about the deficiency of life. It isn't about the deficiency of the other. And it isn't even about the deficiency of me. It's about my fear of it. My fear of it. That essential insecurity leads us, doesn't it?
Is it fear of deficiency or fear of
Impermanence, emptiness, we say groundlessness. As Pema says, no handles, no babysitters coming to save me.
the fear of not being?
Yeah, exactly. Because we often define ourselves by what? That car, that garden, that hairdo, that success, that thing. And what's true about it? Can't hold it, can't keep it, can't secure it. Why? It is in conditioned nature. Everything is coming and going. We practice this in our meditation practice. How? Resting in the what? Coming and going of the breath itself. To go get used to it, everything does this. That's why we actually use the breath, by the way. It's impermanent, insubstantial, can't really get a goo on it, can you? Because it just keeps flowing along. It's kind of handy, right? Isn't it sort of perfectly handy? So as I've been looking at addictive devices, the addiction to self, the addiction to caramel corn or whatever other thing you've got going on, I use that one as my favorite. Then we also have to bring another quality, because just looking, we now know, particularly in the mindfulness teachings, we're so clear, aren't we? And Dia does this, teaches this too. We cannot look without loving kindness. We cannot look without compassion for the truth of our own distress and suffering and insecurity and thinking if we could only get the new something, right? We better begin to feel something wholeheartedly for ourselves, or the looking will only add to the suffering. Because with judgment, there is no freedom. And so I thought we would do today the forgiveness meditation. I haven't done it in a while, but I've been looking at that for myself a lot. Like, can I forgive myself for all the caramel corn, gripping, grabby moments, understanding the truth then, really, of what? My own fear, my own vulnerability, my own humanness. I thought if I could get a right house on the right block in the right neighborhood, everything would work out. Now, by the way, when you're already at ease, it's pretty pleasant. But then you're not attached to it either. Because what? The plants will come and the plants will go. The house will get old. Right. Isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So we're going to prepare to sit. I'm going to read something by Jeff Foster, and then we'll go into the forgiveness. Actually, this teaching is called Forgiveness in the Three Directions. In the three directions. Can you guess which directions those might be? Towards oneself, towards the other, and all beings. For everything they ever did that we didn't even know they did. We don't even know that they screwed up like that. They didn't, we don't even know. I forgive Bethlehem Steel, by the way, because they were pouring gallons and gallons of crude oil into Lake Michigan. And I was watching that going, fuck you all, because that's all I could think of at the moment. And now I go, yeah, I guess you greedy like me. You wanting a bigger house with a bigger yard and a bigger, better car, right? So, I better. And then it invites me, guess where? Right back here. You greedy just like me. And then we have what we call non-separation, don't we? The guy who speeds off from the stop sign and you go, really? Really? You didn't even, nothing? Well, you've done it. It might not have been that moment, but it was one where he went, I'm not getting out of line. I'm not letting that person in. I am going to take a stand. I am going to go, nope, just the way. I am the one now pissed at the clerk because she couldn't ring me up in time to get to the PTA meeting. Yes, she did. That's the greed we're talking about, isn't it? So don't assume it's just, that's macro level. It's easy to see, it's easy to blame, but guess where it starts? Right there in you. And if we attend to that well, I think we're going to live in a better world and we can ensure it. And so this from Jeff Foster. All feelings are only looking for a loving home, for mercy and protection. Feelings have been resisted, pushed away, denied, banished, do not actually disappear. They live in the darkness of our unconscious, homeless, and hungry for love, pulling the strings in our relationships, our bodies, our work, in the world, getting in the way of our joy, screaming for attention deep down in the underworld. They sap and drain our vitality and self-expression, cause us to become reactive, compulsive, obsessive, depressed, anxious, we could go on endlessly, addicted, and ultimately affect our physical health, all in their attempt to get us to listen. Until one day we remember all feelings are sacred and have a right to exist in us, even the messiest, the most inconvenient and painful ones. And we remember to turn towards the feelings instead of running away, to soften into them, to make room for them instead of numbing them or ignoring them. These hungry ghosts, now fed with our love, our warm attention, our curiosity and presence, now given a home in us, can finally come to rest. They no longer need to pull the strings in our lives. They now have the empathy they always longed for. There's even more. I'm not going to read that, but my guess is you're getting the felt sense. So forgiveness requires the ever opening, doesn't it? Spacious, warm, loving heart. We cannot reject the greed, the craving, the wanting. This is not the path. And we can't just go stop it. Right? We can't. It's actually not the way. And in fact, what we resist persists. And we know this to be true. And so we're going to look at our cravings a little bit, and then we're going to forgive ourselves. A moment of fear, a moment of, right, anxiety, a moment of distress. That's always its mother, right? Always. And we don't want to mistake it, do we? So let's practice together. And so finding a comfortable posture, I'm going to try to speak up because I know when I am meditating with you, my voice drops. I'm going to work hard to try to stay a little bit louder so that those on Zoom can hear us too. And so feeling the feet, the legs in contact with the earth. Realizing that this place, this seat, has been chosen for you. It is no accident that you are here. And just feeling the sense of the settling, softening body. And then settle back just a little bit more. Find your center seat. And then for just a moment, we'll rest without any demand, without any forced attention, just resting the body. We'll notice the breath. And you'll notice birds and thoughts and sensations, and let that all just be in its flow around you. What I'd like you to place your primary attention on, though, is the felt sense of the out breath. And so we're going to take a big in-breath together first, breathing in deeply, holding it at the top, softening the body, and then a big out through the mouth. Do it again in your own time. feel the way the whole body settles into the seat. And then with each out breath, ride the waves of the out breath. Into release, softening the body. Into clarity, clear seeing by letting go of the thinking mind. Doesn't mean you have to stop thinking. We're just not going to pick up each one of those thoughts, letting them float in the background. And with each out breath, softening the body enough to open that radiant, boundless, whole heart. The one that wishes for happiness. For ease. For freedom. Committing ourselves fully to the beginning, the middle, and the end of the out breath. If you're just placing your attention, you will wear out somewhat quickly. It's actually to feel the out breath, which means dropping the attention right into an embodied presence. You're going to feel the experience of release. And then resting at the end of the out breath in that sacred pause. A light touch, complete rest, and then here comes life, right here with the in-breath. And continuing in this way, breath awareness, bare attention with the out breath. As we stabilize the mind. We will ignite the heart of bodhicitta, by calling to mind those for whom we practice today, including ourselves. Remember that the mind will wander. It takes several moments to establish a single object, this thing called the breath. And so just smile when you notice sounds and thoughts, and gently, lovingly, invite yourself back to the out breath. It is an act of radical compassion to gently, lovingly invite yourself home to just this one out breath. With each breath, we become more present, more mindful. With each act of allowing, acceptance, of gentle returning, we're embodying compassion, loving kindness. It doesn't matter how many times the mind moves. This is a gentle, loving act, like inviting the puppy back to the paper. Just here. Just now. And when we're not striving, when we're not demanding, when we're not forcing, we notice that we can relax into the out breath a little bit more. And as we cultivate an easeful body and a clear seeing mind, we're going to move the attention now from the whole of the breath space and the out breath to the in breath, breathing directly into the heart space, wherever that is for you. With each in breath, breathing in to this Bodhi heart, ever loving, available, boundless, open. And just feeling the sensations that are present right there. We're not trying to get rid of anything. We're not trying to make it different. Just making contact with sensations in the heart space. We're doing this with each in breath. With each in breath, we're going to be creating space and room, growing this heart space bigger. Touching into our very aspiration to cause least harm, to contribute something to the good. And to do so for as many beings as we can. And breathing that aspiration. And in this most loving, most expanded, ever bigger heart, I'd like you to call to mind a moment of failure, a mistake, an action, a word, a thought that was not a benefit. We don't have to make it the worst thing ever that we've done. We could let it be something recent. Maybe an irritated response. Maybe holding an opinion as right a little too long. Maybe noticing our lack of compassion for our own or for another's difficulty. Just calling one thing to mind. And then let yourself feel the contraction, the constriction, as Sharon Salzberg says, the grip in our own hearts. Remembering that this is simply the expression of fear, of vulnerability, of judgment, of insecurity. And seeing if even in that grip, even with those judgments, see if we can begin to feel for ourselves. And then offering this thought of forgiveness. There are many ways that I have hurt or harmed others. have betrayed or abandoned them, caused them suffering, knowingly or unknowingly. I remember now that this comes out of my own pain, my own fear, my own confusion. Let me have the strength to feel the distress, the fear, the pain, the confusion that caused that suffering. We're not going to turn away from that wanting, not wanting heart. We're just going to let it be. Breathing into it, feeling its pinch, its grip, and feeling for ourselves. And then see if you can invite the natural and wholesome feeling of regret. There's such a thing, wholesome regret, wholesome remorse, recognizing the mistake, the limitation, recognizing the pain, the fear, the confusion. I begin to release myself from the burden of judgment, of condemnation, criticism, and begin to ask for forgiveness. May I forgive myself for any harm that I have caused another. Including this one. I am asking myself for forgiveness. And we answer, I forgive you. Breathe it in. Ways we have caused harm, confusion, pain to another by virtue of our own pain. I forgive me. Just breathing that in. Feeling the sense of space or room that it begins to invite. And if we can't invite forgiveness, hopefully you haven't picked the largest violation of your life. If you can't forgive yourself, can you feel compassion for that ever judging mind? Can I feel for myself in my own lack of forgiveness? Knowing that this is the path to certain suffering, no freedom. Can we replace that felt sense of failure, of deficiency with wisdom? I see now the way this has caused harm. And with wisdom and compassion, will commit myself to the amends. The person who recognizes the harm by the way in you is not the person who created it. Continue to breathe into the heart space, inviting self compassion, forgiveness, acceptance. See what's available. Soften the body. Breathing directly into the heart space. And offering to yourself what is available here. May I forgive myself. There are many ways that I have hurt and harmed myself, that I have betrayed or abandoned myself many times through thoughts, words, and deeds, knowingly and unknowingly. May I stay present to the consequence of this lack of care, this lack of compassion, this lack of forgiveness that I've extended to myself, and may I offer it now, feeling the preciousness and vulnerability of my own heart. And then I'd like you to let go, just finding the ease of the out breath for a few breaths. Gathering the self compassion, gathering the acceptance of our humanness, our vulnerability, gathering forgiveness of ourselves. We're going to expand the heart space now to include forgiveness from others, for all the ways they have harmed us. The ways I have harmed others. Let's work on the way that others, um, that we have caused harm. No, we just did that. Ways that others have harmed us. Let's try that. Pick something mild. An angry response, disappointment, not following an agreement, something someone else has done. May I recollect one event? May I recognize in this other their own humanness and vulnerability, their pain, their fear, their distress. May I call it to mind in the other? And may I remember too that just like me, they have pain, they have fear and confusion. And see if you can see it in the other. Can you see the way that even in the harm or the hurt that they have caused you, that they have also caused that harm to themselves? See and feel the pain that they have caused themselves through their pain, fear, or confusion. If you can, as you have offered it to yourself, see if you can feel compassion for them, for their humanness. And then see if you can offer forgiveness to them for the pain that they have caused knowingly or unknowingly, the pain that was born of their own confusion, their own pain, their own fear. See if you can sense their own sorrow, remorse, and regret. See if you can release that burden of judgment, condemnation. See if you can offer them forgiveness. I forgive you. See if you can soften the body, invite that boundless heart. forgiving others for the harm they have caused. We have forgiven ourselves, we have forgiven the other, and now we're going to ask for forgiveness from the other for any way that I have contributed to this difficulty, to this misunderstanding, to this unskillful act, for any way that I have acted out of pain, fear, weakness. I ask for your forgiveness. Whether I did so knowingly, unknowingly. Remembering that by these thoughts, these words, or these actions, I have caused harm not only to you, but to myself. And I ask for your forgiveness. Please forgive me. Breathe it in. Let it create space and room. And then as we breathe out, we're going to send that forgiveness throughout the whole of our bodies. We're going to distribute the good right from that heart space with each out breath. We're going to let that forgiveness expand and warm and release the burden of judgment and criticism. Let it touch every cell, every pore, every muscle, taking in the forgiveness from the other, the forgiveness you have offered another, and the forgiveness towards yourself. Invite them all in now with each in-breath. And with that out-breath, release. Distribute. Let the whole heart, mind, and body become one big forgiving heart. Forgiveness radiating then in all directions, inward, outward, and all around. Let the light of forgiveness, the light of compassion, the light of self-compassion shine in all directions. As you're breathing into that heart, breathe into love, into compassion, into forgiveness. And then on the out breath, send it out. May we all have happiness and the causes for happiness. May we all be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May we all rejoice and take delight, be grateful for our infinite blessings, and wish these very blessings for others. May we rest and dwell in this boundless heart of loving kindness, compassion, and forgiveness. Free from contraction, free from fear, free from self-clinging, completely free. And for the last moments of this practice, just resting in the vast open space of your own boundless heart mind. Shining that light of forgiveness, of love, of compassion in all directions. May we all be filled with loving kindness, and may we be well. May we all be peaceful and at ease. And may we all be happy. Truly happy. And may this practice this morning, may it contribute until all beings are happy and free. So be it. Big work there. Big work, isn't it? Big work, good work, essential work. And so I'm always interested about where you saw the work. Where was the contraction? Where did the grip, like, oh, I don't know about that one. Everybody has them, by the way. So it isn't like there's somebody out there going, what a piece of cake. Where did you notice it?
Empty, how empty,
How empty?
empty.
Empty. Empty. Like not enough love there, not enough forgiveness there, or compassion there. Yes. So not making contact with the compassionate heart. Yes, I think that's how it always feels when we can't invite that for ourselves or others. I think it's empty. There is no warmth there, is there? It's true. And the contraction can feel like, I think, mistakenly, like that's who we really are. But it is never true. It is never true. It means right now the fear or the pain or the confusion appears to be. That's that habit nature. And can we feel for ourselves? Then, right in the empty. This is a big practice, isn't it? Can I feel for myself in the moment when I can't feel? This is big news. Can we start there a little? Right? Rather than what's our habit? Wishing it were some other way. Wishing it weren't there, wishing it weren't like this, wishing I weren't like this, wishing it was better, worse, it would be and by the way, that is the propagation. That's called papancha, the mind that feeds the suffering. Not this. Oops. Since we're not going to get rid of this, we only transform into what? Our truest nature. By the way, also right here, even when I can't yet get there, can I just at least know where I am with some kind of compassion? Like me, just like everyone, stuck like this, empty like this, confused like this, maybe unforgiving like this. That's why I invite compassion with the forgiveness practice, because we can't always get to forgiveness. And then can I feel for myself in my, whatever that is there, right? Because there wasn't anybody, they're not on this Zoom, they're not on any Zoom, who went, oh, it was, now it doesn't mean we also don't have access to that. Like, oh, I really can forgive myself for the time I walked off from Target with all those pillows, even when I knew that she didn't ring them up. I can. My own greedy, well, Target's got a lot going on. They don't need that $18 from me. But by the way, it wasn't really about Target, was it? It's about the fact that I still remember that. I still remember that.
I noticed that I couldn't do the small stuff. The big things kept pushing in. So I just accepted that and just observed. And I also noticed something that I had not noticed prior. Part of my forgiveness is the unforgiveness I put in other people's heads.
That you put in others.
Yeah, and
that
I
you're
just,
projecting.
yeah, and when I was seeing that, I was like, it's just another way of holding on to
Yes. that's right.
unforgiveness. Is, oh, they think that about me,
Yes.
and they thought that about
Yes.
So that was another.
That they are judging me. They are still condemning. They are still in devaluation or so.
Which is.
Which is us.
Totally made up
Yeah,
bullshit.
That's
yeah.
us projecting. We call that projection.
'Cause
Me
you know-
putting that on others. It doesn't mean others aren't also caught in their contracted hearts in their moments, but actually it's not about us anyway. Don't mistake it. Even if they said it was. Whose heart is the one in contraction?
So
Right.
So I'm accepting the fact that
Yeah.
there's more for me to do there.
Mhm.
There's just. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
This is why people don't like certain new here you guys are, right? People don't like coming into new groups. Why? They're pretty sure, even if it's an undertoned statement that, well, I don't know. Like, are they going to judge me? Am I going to be judging of them? Right? So you're like, ugh, groups, right? Groups we don't know. I don't want to be in that group because they're going to be going, well, you're not really a daily meditator, are you? And if you're not a daily meditator, you don't belong. Well, this is not true, is it? There's not one of us who actually thinks that. And if you think that, where's the real problem? Well, I'm probably not a daily meditator, by the way. And I'm probably going, you ought to get it together. Right? This is the truth of all judgments. Who have we judged first? Always ourselves. You cannot judge another for an anger, let's say, that you know in yourself, can you? Because you're going, I know where that came from. That came from my own fear, my own criticism, right? Then how do you, if you know that, that's the wisdom factor, we call it, of enlightenment. You know that, how in the world would you judge the other in it? Well, because we forget, don't we? Because we forgot how the anger was propagated in us. And then it's pretty easy to get over there. Or we see another in their lack of forgiveness and we take it on. As Brenda's saying, we end up taking that on, going, okay, so that means I am failed, I am deficient, but you already believed that. Nobody else's forgiveness or lack of forgiveness is the issue at all. By the way, the thing I want people to be most clear about from these beautiful teachings is that there is such a thing as wholesome regret. Wholesome regret. What is that? That's recognizing harm, recognizing its cause, second part, and committing oneself to seeing it and then acting from another place. Wholesome, right? Isn't it beautiful? That's the beginning of all wisdom, is wholesome regret. To go, yeah, that didn't work out. There is no amount of pillow that made the feelings I have about taking those pillows worth it, by the way. There is no $18 that makes that pay off. In fact, right? It doesn't work. Doesn't work. Are there people who don't feel wholesome regret? Yes and no. What do you think that is? Yes and no. Are there people who don't feel wholesome regret? Yes and no. What's the yes? You just keep doing it. There you are. You drove drunk again. Right? So that's the yes. It looks like, right? You don't have any regret. By the way, it's not totally true. What's the no? Shame. Shame will cover the connect to wholesome regret. That's all. It's obscured, we call it. It's not because it's not there. It's because I can't make contact with that because I have decided I am only this. So no, right? And so we don't look, we turn the other way, we reject. It's shame on top of it. It's not that wholesome regret isn't actually there. So be careful what you assume about others or yourself. It's that shame has replaced that felt sense. So you feel absolutely, well, let's say numb or nothing. You go, like, you get that. Did you really?
The one thing that I've thought about it is that, shame is based in the idea that I am bad,
That's right.
and guilt is based in I'm good and I know I'm better than that, and
Yes.
so
Wholesome remorse.
yeah.
That's what wholesome remorse is.
Mhm.
We watch the word guilt because people can too easily take that on a little bit too. But wholesome meaning recognizing our humanness, recognizing an error as an error, and committing oneself. I want to not do that again. I don't like the result. Either in me, maybe the other, or maybe both.
What it creates.
Right. And how else do we learn if we don't allow for that? How does anybody learn? Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely things, for example, that I could say that I have regrets about. But when I'm able to look at what I know now that I didn't know then, you have to factor that into the equation.
That's right. You couldn't even see that,
Mhm.
could you? It's a level of blindness, by the way. I am not seeing all factors. I am either deciding it's just me, I'm deciding it's just you. Well, that's not true either. In fact, what we understand is that causes are infinite. And if you're only going, it's just you because you did, that's limited, not very clear seeing, and will not allow for compassion or understanding. And if I think it's just me, it'll do exactly the same, won't it? It'll just go, well, then I just got to cut me out of this thing and then everything will be all right. And that's not true either. And in fact, often we're all apart, aren't we? We are all apart, right? I remember in my early training years, and Joko would say things to me like, well, what did you contribute to that problem? And I would think, you were not there. You did not see the situation. He just screamed at me. Right? No, 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 no. Now, she wasn't blaming, but I experienced that as blame when she said, and what was your contribution? I took that. It was me. She wasn't blaming me. She was saying, you are empowered in this. You also have a way of being skillful, loving, and kind, even in the face of this, let's call it unskillful.
I keep coming back to unskillful.
Yep.
If I stay with unskillful.
Right? Then we can give it to everybody.
Yeah.
You can give it
Ourselves
to yourself
included.
and the
Yeah.
other, can't you? You can go, whoops, didn't see the whole picture. Didn't get to operate from that whole thing. And it's okay. Then we can write, instead of me, the blank one. And this is what we call shrink wrapped mind. Me, the unforgivable, me, the untouchable, or you is a deficiency of understanding. No, it wasn't one cause or condition. It was, I was lazy. That was a factor at the Target pillow event. I was like, I have to go back in there. I got to get back in line. I'm already late, by the way. I had kids and I was picking them up. I thought easier, throw those things in the trunk, boom, drive on off. I can actually feel for myself, by the way. Now, I was quite overwhelmed. At that time, I was working, I was trying to be a mother, I was trying to get dinner on the table. I had way too much going on, and I was not skillful. I could barely hold the balls. Can I feel for myself? I can. Can I feel for others? Yeah. Can't I? Can't we? Oh, then, right, then. But without, again, I'll go back to the self-compassion piece. Without that, I don't know if we can get there. If you cannot put yourself, we call that exchanging self for other. If you cannot put yourself humanly in that other's position and recognize their difficulty, their pain, their distress, I think forgiveness is not possible. Is it? I don't know if it's possible without compassion. I don't know that it is. I'm going to go with maybe not.
It's a different way of thinking about forgiveness because
the sort of traditional way, because I'm up here,
Uh-huh.
and you're down here, and I'm saying, I forgive you. And this place of compassion is not at all there. We're in the same boat.
Yep.
We're living in the same world.
Of course, in my work, I work with people that are deeply grieved. Sometimes for years toward one another. And they've built poisonous stories about one another, and, specific things when they're talked about, it seems as though there is a need for the aggrieved person to have a sense that the other person understands their suffering.
Yes. That's compassion.
Yeah,
That's what compassion is.
yeah. And if that ball can't get rolling, they often can't get there.
That's right.
You know,
See, I
so-
think it's the underbelly of forgiveness. If you can't get the sense, and we know this even in work with countries, if one country cannot understand the truth of the suffering of the other, and then ultimately take some responsibility. Well, this is where it gets dicey, right? Well, like, but I wouldn't have if you didn't, and you did, so you started. We get into that linear, right? There is no resolution. Resolution cannot come from there, and I don't think true forgiveness can. I think if we can't go, I know, because I lost and you lost,
Mhm.
and now we're both sitting in this profound loss, and not just shrink wrapped into self-cherishing that goes, well, I lost, so screw you. You are the cause of my pain. We also have to open to, and I am probably the cause of yours. Right? We have to open the door. So just so we know, I think the compassion practice is essential. So we're going to stay there, even if we can't get to forgiveness, even right. And I think Lisa's right. I think we've got to be a little careful about me offering you something, you pathetic, blah, blah, blah. I don't know that that's real forgiveness. I don't think it is.
And during meditation, I struggled during like forgiveness for others, because it was hard for me to like build a narrative around the reasons for their action.
Yes.
But with the definite understanding that there were reasons, but it was hard to feel it because I didn't want to assume things. Like I made things up, but there was no like
Clear.
concrete.
You didn't
evidence
have the
of it.
concretes.
Yeah, so I felt like
Mhm.
it's hard to feel that authentic, like like
Yeah.
honest, like forgiveness or compassion,
Right?
because I don't understand that
Yes.
fully, so it's hard.
Yes. You can't understand that in another, I'll say it again, unless you know the cause in you. So you put yourself in that place, which is, what could even you could start saying, imagine, or you could go, where have I acted in that way? Where have I shut down? Where have I just cut someone off? Where have I yelled or been angry? Where have I, right, out of my own confusion? And then we imbue, actually in our tradition, in the Buddhist tradition, we say expand one's own heart to include the other, one's own understanding. That's why self-compassion is the beginning of forgiveness. Not anything about the other, because guess what? Other is perceived. It's only perceived. What do I know about my shutdown? What do I know about my aggression? What do I know about my greed? What do I know about my confusion? And then says the Buddha, you know everything. Because the circumstance is not the point. Ever. Right? Spilt milk is not the problem. It's what you do with it then. Right? So that's how you know, right? Right? So I know, well, it was easier to walk off with the pillows than it was to, right? Now I'm thinking of Bethlehem Steel. I'll give you an example. It was easier to dump it right into that lake than to spend, what, $300 million? No joke.
What about all the DDT that's at the bottom of the ocean just off the California coast?
What about it?
The same age.
It's all the, it's all the same. It's all the same. It's just
Yeah.
easier to judge that, right?
It
Because you go,
is.
well, pillows aren't the same as a lake. Well, it starts as a pillow.
Suffering. Happens.
See,
that's if
and it
you
can't get to the
enjoy-
lake, by the way, if
But-
you're really attending.
You didn't have the motivation with the pillows. You weren't trying to get by with something like, I'm gonna get these free pillows for free.
No, not
You-
until I saw the pillows and I threw them in the trunk anyway. Because I did see the pillows and I did see they weren't on the receipt and I thought, well, I don't know. Pillows.
I mean, it just seems like totally in the awakened state. You were all in stuff that you were
It
dealing with.
was. I was.
Totally awake. So
I was awake to, I'm not gonna do what the right thing is right now. I was that awake. I did catch that. I'm not gonna do it. Because the
Change it.
right thing would have been the,
Would you, if you were to go back, would you do it differently?
yeah, I would. I would. By the way, I don't like the feeling.
Mhm.
I don't like the feeling. It's nothing about the pillows. I don't like the way it feels. Because I did know, actually, and I didn't act from what I knew. By the way, can I forgive myself? The answer is I can. I'm not carrying this as an essential part of me, and I'm really an essentially, and I am lazy, and I can be, and I can assess, really not that big a deal. I don't like the feeling though. So I don't want to live with that. And that's just about me. And can I invite forgiveness? I actually can. I recognized I was a completely overwhelmed young mother, doing too much, not having the bandwidth or resource to navigate another half hour in the, and could I have brought him back in the, yeah. I could have. I could have. I just decided to go, let that go. And again, can I recognize numbness? Can I recognize easier to just not feel this? Yes. So we're going to be compassionate with ourselves, please, in all these moments. And do not mistake the other for different than you. Don't do that. What are the causes and conditions for their aggression? Exactly the same as yours. Exactly. Don't mistake it for otherwise, right? As we practice. Without this compassion, I don't think you can cultivate mindfulness, because who could bear it?
I'm going to share a quick little story. I teach tennis by this tennis club in the street right by where I teach. And the street is like 40 feet away. And so this father loses his awakeness. He must be on a phone or something. There's a crosswalk and a car had stopped, dead stop. And he was totally, with whatever.
Checked out,
And
yep.
it's hit him full speed and the explosion, everything like right there. And so it was a showstopper. But the outpouring of compassion for everybody going out there to see if the father, was all right, after his airbag and everything exploded, he totally just squished it. I mean, crunched his car big time. So the outpouring of people coming out there, coming to the aid, and nobody in the cross flashes and everything that people crossing. Oh, it was just really heart rendering, and obviously everybody's stopping to see, this fellow is going to
It's lovely.
the crash through the grace of God because the airbag. He did survive, and there's this child seat and everything, and who knows where he was at, but
Yep.
and it was just, well, could be me. It
Yes,
could be
right.
me. I could have. He gets distracted like that.
Yep.
I could be doing the
That's
same
right.
thing.
That's right. And to recognize then where our limits are, because we can be compassionate for the man hitting the thing. And we're not so compassionate when the man hits a kid.
Ooh,
And we recognize our own limitation, don't we? To go, yep, nope. mwah." And that's the beginning of our practice, right at the precipice there. To go, okay, I can do it over a pillow. I can't do it for Bethlehem Steel.
Hmm.
And then can I feel for myself in my own contractedness? Where's the limit? We're always looking at that. And I think that's very skillful. That's skillful to go, okay, pillows, no problem. I can give it to you. Ruining a lake, I'm having a little more trouble. And just recognizing. And then what? Can I feel for myself in my own contraction, in my own limitation, and ever working towards the boundless? All right, we're already at 9 o'clock. We're going to sit for just 2 minutes together, offering the merits of our practice. And so just finding one's way back into the boundless heart. And remember, recognizing where the limit is a loving act. Not with judgment, not with criticism, but with compassion for oneself. And may we dedicate the merits, the blessings, and the benefits of our practice today, and all practices throughout all time, coming from all traditions and all directions. May we offer this to the end of suffering and the realization of true abiding happiness and freedom. May we call to mind those special ones, those to whom we wish freedom from fear, pain, hunger, poverty, illness, and aloneness. May we call them to mind and offer these blessings to them. And may our practice only grow and continue. May it never diminish and only flourish and grow evermore. And more. May it benefit all beings everywhere without exception, omitting none. Blessings to all. And see if you can't stay tuned a little bit to what numbs us out. What numbs us out so that I can't feel anything. That's that emptiness. What's numbing us out? It is, in fact, that lack of compassion, that lack of forgiveness, that lack we have not extended yet to ourselves. And let's make contact with it. And then remember that shame is the cover for that numbness. It's like, it's so horrible, it's so bad, it's so unbearable, I can't even open to it. And okay, not yet, right? Just not yet. All right, everyone, thank you so much online. Wonderful to have you. We'll be putting this online on YouTube for those who want to try the practice again. Jack Cornfield does a very lovely version of this practice, about 17 minutes on Insight Timer. So it is also there as well as YouTube. All right, everyone, have a wonderful weekend. I'll be in Santa Barbara through next Wednesday, but I will still be here teaching on Tuesday morning by Zoom. So I look forward to seeing you all then. All right, everyone. See you later.